Hey, what's going on, everyone? Joe Menza here, and we're going to do a nice seascape painting. Those were the materials used in this painting. I'm using the 11 by 15 Artist's Loft paper. I'm spraying it down really good with my continuous spray. If this is your first video watching, I'll try to cover some things here. This bottle is, I got it off Amazon. It's hairstylists use it, and it creates a finer spray than your typical spray bottle. So it's nice. You can spray the paper and have a nice clean water coming out instead of dipping into your can and maybe doing any kind of sort of contamination. So I'm doing what I found I like to do in these paintings, and that's I like to squeeze out fresh paint. I used to go with the palette, but I decided to go with the fresh paint. I like the strength of I don't have to scrub the bristles onto the dry paint and work to get it out. And in this type of painting where we're doing fast and loose, we want to least work possible. So I've squeezed out some blue, some cerulean, and some Prussian blue. And some purple. These are gouache colors. And if you've been watching me for some time now, you've noticed I've evolved into using a combination of gouache and watercolor. Some people refer to it as gouache, and it's fun. It's fun to blend these types of mediums together. You notice I can go very strong, and I can create some stronger pigments. So basically, what I'm doing is I can use water to dilute or use white to bring the color down. I'd rather come down than have to go up by using more paint. And by using body color type gouache, I can go heavier on pigments. I can get stronger colors. Before, when I was painting, I was using a lot of watercolor and I would build up, and eventually you'd have so much layers of watercolor, it just wasn't really doing what I needed it to do. It was doing it, but it was too much work, really. So this gets me stronger colors and more vivid and better, dazzle to the eye. Now I've thrown a little bit of purple in here. I put these on sort of haphazardly, I'll say. And I know that I can do this because while it's wet, I can come in and I can do some blending. I watch a lot of oil painters. In the beginning, I watched a lot of watercolor artists when I first started doing this and read a lot of watercolor books. And I've kind of decided that I'm going to watch more oil painting and the way oil painters have traditionally worked in the past. And by doing so, it opens me up to some different techniques and trying to duplicate things that oil painters might do. And it'll get me a painting that has maybe an oil painting look to it, which is what I've always kind of strived for anyway. But you'll see I've taken the dry brush, I've blended it, and then what I do is this is my light in a bottle, we'll call this. In another video I had bottle of white, I called it Sky Fix. In this one I've got this bottle of yellow ochre. And it's basically like having light in a bottle. I can come back and yellow is really the best one I found for this. And I can put yellow transparently into the painting and come up with ways to introduce light. So now here I'm taking my fan brush and I'm just dropping in. Now I know I'm going to come back and I'm going to smooth this out a little bit. So I'm just trying to come up with a nice pattern for some white clouds. And I've left those different colors that are in there are creating little shadows where the clouds would be. So now if I take my soft brush, and this is just a clean, dry brush. It's important that it's clean and dry. So you're going to need to have a few brushes. This is more of a generic-y Hake type brush. And it's okay because I'm not really using it for painting. I'm just using it for, if you have a soft brush, you can use this and you can blend the colors. So you just want to tickle the paper here and just blend in the clouds a little bit. Just soften them up a little bit. The harder you do it, the more you're going to cause your paint to disappear. So that's kind of it for the clouds. I'm going to come back now on the bottom, and I wasn't really sure what I was going to paint here, so when I started doing it, I thought, well, the colors kind of just evoke kind of a skyscape, a seascape, I should say. And so I just decided, I'm going to take what I have already here on my palette. I'm going to kind of dance in some things that maybe look a little bit like waves. So between the sky and the waves, I have a piece here that's, there's a lot of energy. It gives you movement, and you look at it, and it's really just a burst of energy. Now you notice I get a little dripping coming down here. Not too worried about it. I let things happen. Don't worry too much about, making a mistake. Just let that be part of the process, so we don't get too upset about anything. This is supposed to be calm and fun and relaxing and enjoyable, and it should be something that you enjoy doing. Your approach should be relaxed, and set up your room, relax, have aromatherapy going, put on a special hat, whatever you have to do to get you in the mode of painting and telling yourself, hey, I am an artist, and this is, let it happen. So I've taken some Viridian hue here. This is an unusual color. Viridian is not, to me, a natural color that looks very natural. But for an ocean color, or like a seascape, you can use it. If you sit and watch waves, I was in Florida recently, and I was just kind of watching the waves a little bit. And you'll notice there's some green as the water kind of rolls in. So I've tried to introduce that a little bit. I don't want, too much of that, but just enough so you know it's there. So of course now I'm taking that same, the same white gouache. This is Winsor & Newton white gouache. It's a high quality gouache, but you do have to use a strong amount of it, or it will vanish and fade back into the paper. So I've gotten used to knowing that when I'm putting it on like this, it looks really stark and bright and stands out almost too much. But now look back at the sky and you'll see it's faded into a point to where it just looks very natural. Okay, so here in the wave part here, I'm blending the white and blending in that green. And we're just kind of abstractly doing some waves. I'm not trying to paint like the perfect wave. We're giving you the sense of what's going on here. So you have the energy, and you have the vibe, and you're not going to put in every little bit of water. So it's, it takes some discipline to say, I'm going to do something in an abstract way. When you look at abstract paintings, you think the person doesn't have maybe the skills to paint, or maybe they're just slapping paint on. But it really isn't. There is really a method to that madness of abstract, especially if you're doing semi-abstract and you want to get, there is a puzzle you want the brain to solve, shapes and so forth. And once you have that, you're still trying to get that across enough without putting in every little detail. And what a better way to do that with shapes of things like, trees, bushes, clouds, waves. Those things are ambiguous. It's not like if you're painting a portrait or a person or an animal. Those things, they have to be sort of spot on to sell the piece, unless it's abstract in a way of a face. I mean, you could look at Picasso. I just saw the Picasso exhibit at the Dali Museum in Florida. And, of course, there was a method to that, Cubism style. It had its own set of variables that were followed. And with that came a unique new style. But people knew what they were looking at. You knew you were looking at a face. You knew you were looking at a body. But it was done in such a way that you looked at it where your brain says, what am I looking at here? And then once you kind of got an idea what you're looking at, you like the style, or maybe it evoked a certain, sensation in you, whatever. And, of course, Picasso was very, very successful. And it's very interesting to me, any artist that sort of pioneered a particular style. And that's not easy to do. It seems like everything new has been done under the sun, which is why I'm using sort of this gouache. I really want to do something unique, or a unique technique. And now here I'm taking some burnt umber and some burnt sienna, and I'm just creating some rocks. I need something in the foreground just to give us some perspective here. There's not really a focal point, but in order to kind of push things back, I'm going to do this with the rocks. And I'm just grabbing some watercolor here. This is actually indigo. And honestly, the reason I'm using indigo is because when I was doing watercolor, I had really two favorite colors, and you'll see those used. I don't see me not using them. Yellow ochre and indigo. I really like those colors. I really like the sort of flavor that they give the painting. So here I go with my browns and my blues. And there is some white in here, so it's kind of blending and it's kind of creating a weird effect. And you know, I want it to look like rocks, obviously. So if ever you get to a point you're putting paint on and it's blending into the paint below, and you don't want that, then break out the hair dryer and, you know, give it a good dry. So I'm trying to get a little more brown on top through the burnt sienna, which is kind of a reddish brown, which is okay, you know, if you're thinking of rock colors. Now, if you're following along, you're going to find out that these rocks is not necessarily, I'm not going to be happy with those. So hopefully you've watched this video through at least once. I always recommend that of my videos. And if you want to give it a go, then, you know, you'll be further armed with knowledge before you proceed. So here, I was just mixing a little yellow in with that brown. I thought maybe I could do a little highlighting. Wasn't really wild about what happened as I did that. Again, always a little bit of experimentation. What is excitement without a little adventure, right? If we knew what we were going to do, you know, when you go to work, you get in your vehicle usually and you drive to your workplace and you get out, you get in, you say good morning everybody, you sit at your desk, or maybe you go do a labor type job. You go and there's a certain set of steps. Once you learn the job never changes. It's the same all the time. It's procedural, and art shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be. You should have a set of things that you know work, but you should also be always looking for adventure and always new ways to make something stand out, in my opinion. So I used my card. I used my plastic card, and I scraped out some rocks, and that would have been fine. However, I do have some blue underneath. If I had planned this out ahead of time, I might have had like a yellow color underneath, and then when I scraped it out, I would have had a more realistic looking rock. So I'm not really happy with that. It could work to some degree, but for me, it's not gonna do it. So you'll notice that this experimenting of scraping in the rocks with that going on leads me to do something a little different, a little more drastic. So I was trying to put some darker colors underneath the rocks to make them stand out a little more. Again, not really happy with the way that's going. And you would think after the success of the background of this painting, to get tripped up on this little rock is unexpected. And in some ways it is. But you'll see what I'm going to do here next, and maybe it'll give you some ideas. So using the gouache, it gives me some freedom. Before I had this freedom of, you know, this thought of don't use white, don't do this and don't do that. And once you break the cycle of, hey, what not to do, I started using white. And I said, let me use other colors of gouache. And then I started integrating those together. You know, and you'll get to a point if you use, say, maybe acrylic and watercolor, you know, you start to get into the mixed media realm. Maybe you want to be more of a purist. I say if you can come up with something that's a compilation of different things and you come up with something unique and a unique way that you do it with your own stamp on it, that's art. That is being artistic. That is coming up with some way that you do things that's unique to you. There may be other people in the world doing it, but at the same time, the variables that you utilize to bring your piece out are uniquely you. And you are uniquely you. So when you go into doing a painting, remember that what's going onto the paper is coming out of you. And that is what art is about. That is about the artist. And that's what people a lot of times are sold on. They're interested in the artist. What was this person like? What was this person trying to achieve? And what was this person's mindset to try to get, into the piece? And what were they trying to convey? Were you trying to convey a certain mood? For me, I'm either looking for light, energy, or something to really garner your interest, or sometimes I'm looking for just a calm, peaceful, tranquility piece, atmosphere, mood. All of those things kind of combine sometimes. Where I want you to look at the piece. If I can have someone look at a piece for more than a few seconds, then I've created some interest and I've done my job as an artist. I'm just, hey, at the end of the day, I'm just trying to create something cool. This is a cool piece, is to break it down into a simple word is I want to do something very cool, And to me, adding all these little different variables and going into gouache, and it's uniquely me. I've always been this way in a hobby. If I get in a hobby, I want to learn everything about it. I want to know everything there is to know, and then I want to somehow stand out or be different. Now, here we go I've mixed some burnt umber with some white. And I'm going to use the palette knife here, another oil painting type thing. Now, there's enough paint on here that if I'm going over it with the palette knife, I'm creating some marbled, the paint's not super mixed, so I'm creating a marbled, a marbling of this color, which will look like rocks at the end of the day, hopefully. So I'm doing that right on my board. I squeezed out a little bit of white, a little bit of brown. And I'm just trying to pick up enough on the edge of my knife just to get that little band of paint there. And I'm pressing on here kind of harder than I think you got to kind of go at it and press whatever gives you that like effect that there's a little bit of texture there. See, I look at my knife and I see how much paint is on there where it's right at the edge. Pick up a little bit of brown, whatever's there, and just try to create some variation. And see, I'm not painting every detail in there, So that's pretty much going to give me what I want there. Now I'm going to squeeze out a little more of that indigo that I like, which is a nice dark blue. I like the one from Hobby Lobby. Their indigo is a very nice color. The one from Michaels is a little toward the redder, do I want to say redder side or bluer side? Blue. The one at Michaels is like bluer. I like the Hobby Lobby version better. So I'm just kind of scraping that in with the palette knife now to create some dark shadows. I don't want to use like black or anything. I still want the harmony of the colors in the painting. So I can get away with some blues in there. The blues and the browns work nice together. And now I'm taking advantage of just wetting the paper a little bit with this brush, going around and sort of just defining behind these rocks. See, now I have a little bit of something going on behind the rocks. They're kind of shaped out a little better. And then just blend that in a little bit. So I'm trying to blend that one a little, stands out a little too much. And now that that's dried a little bit, I'm going to give it a little another shot of my light in a bottle. And over the white, it tints because actually yellow ochre is not as transparent as some of the other colors, but it's still transparent. So I sprayed that over the top. I did a dry, and spray a little bit of moisture over those rocks. If the paint's a little heavy, I might give it a little spray. But that's the end of this painting, and now I'm signing it with my Micron pen, and that's the end of it. Let's take a look here. You notice the energy. You can feel the color. You can feel the energy of the waves coming down. I'll try to zoom in for you. You can see I popped in a couple of birds and got a nice just array of things going on here. So I'm pretty happy with this one. I like how the rocks turned out. I hope you enjoyed this. Hope you got something out of it. And thank you everyone, and I'll see you next time.